Hey, how's it going everybody? Welcome back to Aussie Fish Keeping. So in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at 7 of the best fish that can cohabitate quite well with betta fish. So I've put together a list of a wide variety of different fish that make great tank mates for your bettas, all of which can withstand both the water parameters and the behavior of the bettas, which is obviously a vital factor which you need when you are keeping your bettas with tank mates. So a lot of the times, especially amongst beginner keepers, bettas do actually get quite a bad rap, and the reason I say this is because most of the time when beginners get their first fish, it's either something like a betta or a guppy. Now when they do get a betta, they're generally told just to keep it by itself, just because it is a fighting fish and it can be very aggressive. So this is obviously true. Obviously bettas can be very aggressive at times, although it really just does depend on the personality of your fish in specific. So it might sound a little bit crazy, but all bettas do have different personalities. So some are more docile and others are a lot more aggressive. But despite all the information that you might have heard, bettas can definitely make great community fish if they are kept with the right species and in the right tank size. So if you are planning on keeping your betta with a tank mate, I would definitely say you're going to need a minimum of a 20 to 30 litre tank. Obviously, just because if you keep them in anything smaller, the aggression can be a lot more targeted to one specific fish, and neither of your fish are going to like that. Obviously, they're just going to get more and more stressed. But I guess without any further ado, let's just jump straight into today's video, and let's start with the first fish on our list. So as for the first fish that I think are great tank mates for bettas, we have one that is a super awesome little nano fish. We have Otus Sinkless Catfish. So Otus Sinkless Catfish, or Otos, are obviously a very well-known algae-eating fish, and they are a very small little species. So being a smaller species, obviously they can go well in smaller tanks, which means you can keep them with a betta in a smaller sized aquarium. So Otus Sinkless Catfish in general are very docile and peaceful little fish, and they definitely do make great community fish for a wide range of different species. And one of the ones I think they do best with is the betta fish. So even though these guys are quite a small fish, they are very hardy and robust, and they can take a little bit of a beating from your bettas. So obviously if you do just provide your betta with enough enrichment in their tank, they're obviously just not going to be too interested in the Otus Sinkless Catfish in general, so you shouldn't find any aggression at all. But if the Otus Sinkless does experience any sort of aggression from the betta, it can obviously hide quite easily, being a small fish, and it can obviously withstand a beating from the betta because it is very hardy and robust. But yeah, with that being said, I definitely think Otus Sinkless Catfish make a great tank mate for your bettas. Okay, so moving on to the next fish on our list, we have a super common little beginner fish. We have endlers. So endlers are obviously a super common little nano live bearer, and they are kept as a beginner fish just because they are super peaceful and super easy to care for. So being a peaceful little fish, obviously they're not going to show too much aggression to your betta at all, and most of the time they might be quite intimidated just because the betta is a lot bigger than the endlers are. So as well as this, obviously the endlers are super fast little fish, and if they do experience any sort of aggression from your betta, they can get away quite quickly, and they can definitely find a space to hide in your aquarium if need be. So endlers can be a little bit nippy at times, although if you are keeping them with a really dominant fish like a betta, they're probably not going to nip at them too much just because they are a little bit scared of them. So I wouldn't worry about any aggression being shown from the endlers to the bettas. The only thing I would worry about when keeping bettas with endlers is obviously the endlers are live bearers, and if you do want to try and breed them, you definitely do not want to keep them with your betta. So obviously just because they give birth to really small live young, your betta can quite easily eat these up, and you're not going to get any to grow out to adult stage. Although if you do just want to keep them as a nice little community tank, then they definitely go great with your bettas, and I would highly recommend them as a great betta tank mate. Moving on to the next fish on our list, we have another super small and fast little fish. We have Danos. So Danos are obviously a really well-known beginner community fish just because they are very peaceful. So some of the times Danos can be a little bit nippy, and that's probably the only thing I would worry about when keeping them with your bettas. So these guys are a lot bigger than the other 2 species on this list, which obviously means they can withstand more of a beating from the bettas. And if they are to experience any sort of aggression, they are very hardy and they can withstand it quite well. So as well as that, they are very fast little fish, and obviously they can get away if the betters are becoming too aggressive. But like I was saying before, they can be a little bit nippy, so if you are trying to keep these guys with a long fin variety betta, I would definitely just keep an eye on them and make sure they're well fed. Just because the last thing you want is your Danios nipping at your longfin better's fins, and that's obviously just going to stress out your betta, and this can also cause it to be more aggressive to its other tank mates. But yeah, as long as you keep an eye on them, I definitely think Danios make a great tank mate for your betters as well. So moving on to the next fish on our list, we have a super popular aquarium fish. We have neon tetras. So neon tetras are by far one of the best community fish, and they can definitely go excellent with your betters as well. So they can be a little bit fickle at times, and they definitely cannot withstand as much aggression as the other species on this list can. But if you keep them in a nice group of around 5 to 6, your better probably won't go after them anyway, just because there's too many for them to really target one. So one of the things people worry about with keeping their neon tetras with betters is that just because the neon tetras do have such bright colors, this can obviously attract the betta and can obviously make it curious, which could lead to some nipping. Although the neon tetras are quite fast little fish, so they should be able to get away quite easily. But yeah, I definitely think neon tetras and small tetras in general just make perfect community fish to keep with your betters as tank mates. So moving on to the next fish on our list, we have another super common little beginner fish. We have guppies. So guppies are obviously a lot like endlers, the only real difference being that they are a lot larger. So this obviously means they are a lot hardier and they can withstand more aggression than the endlers can. So the only thing with guppies that's different to the endlers is they do have quite long finnage, and if you are keeping them with your betters, you do want to make sure that your guppies aren't getting nipped at too much, just because the guppies have super long colorful finnage, which can obviously attract the betters. But yeah, as well as that, obviously they do give live birth, so if you are trying to breed them, they're probably not best tank mates for the betters, just because the betters can eat their fry quite easily. But again, if you do want to just keep them in a nice community aquarium, I would definitely recommend guppies as another great tank mate to keep with your betters. So moving on to the next fish on our list, we have a super small, great little community fish. We have white cloud minnows. So white clouds are a really small and fast top-dwelling fish that can definitely make great tank mates for your betters. So being such a small and fast fish, they can definitely avoid your betters if they need to, and as well as that, they don't really exhibit any really bright colors, which obviously doesn't really attract the betta at all. So these guys can cohabitate in a smaller sized aquarium quite well. So white clouds as well are super hardy little fish, and they can deal with a wide variety of different water parameters. So if you prefer to keep your betters in higher temperature climates or in higher temperature tanks, you can definitely keep the white clouds in there as well. But yeah, I think white clouds are definitely some of the best little tank mates that you can keep with your betters. So moving on to the final fish on our list, we have a super common little beginner fish. We have cherry shrimp. So I know a lot of people might have very mixed opinions out there when it comes to keeping cherry shrimp with betters. Although in my experience, there's a couple of things you have to make sure you are doing in order to keep your betters safely with your cherry shrimp. So number one, obviously, you just got to make sure that your cherry shrimp are at a big enough size to where they can't fit in your better's mouth. Just because when the betta gets its first chance, it'll easily just eat up your shrimp straight away. But yeah, if you get maybe 5 or 6 really nice mature adult cherry shrimp, they definitely shouldn't be worried by the betta whatsoever. So another thing you need to keep in mind when keeping your betters with cherry shrimp is that the cherry shrimp don't really like too high of temperatures in their aquarium. So obviously this doesn't really worry the betta too much. It is a little bit better to keep your betta in higher temperatures, although they can do quite well here in Australia without a heater in their aquarium. And the final thing you need to ensure you have in your aquarium is a nice variety of plants and plenty of hiding spaces for your cherry shrimp. So the plants will not only benefit the cherry shrimp, but they will also benefit the betters as well. So having plants in there just gives the betters something to interact with, and it will distract the betters from the cherry shrimp. Now, another great thing the plants act as is obviously hiding spaces for your cherry shrimp. And I think this is the most important thing you have in your aquarium if you are keeping these two together, just because obviously your cherry shrimp do need to molt. And once they molt, they are obviously really soft and super vulnerable, which makes them a super easy meal for your bettas to eat. So having the plants in there allows them to get away from your bettas and molt in peace. But yeah, as long as you make sure you keep all of these things under control, I definitely think that cherry shrimp make another great little tank mate to keep with your bettas. But with that being said, that is going to bring us to the end of today's video. So I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope I helped you guys out. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe and leave your thoughts on the video in the comments down below. I always love going through and reading them all. But yeah, with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all in that next video.